let me ask you then, Kaden, from a perspective of knowing kind of how big your dad was in that game, what part of you keeps you centered where it's like, no, I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to just keep working hard and hope it pays off. And I'm going to avoid doing the insane stuff despite the fact that either I can or I know it's going to get the likes or it's going to, draw people to who I am. What kind of like grounds you in that aspect?
Life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of aspects when it comes to it, injuries. I've seen people die. I've seen people lose their jobs because they got arrested and they got points on their record. Like there's just too many risks for a reward. Like I like any chance I can get to ride the streets safely, I'm doing it.
Right.
But also you just got to watch out. I watch people make money, and the best way to make money is not riding on the streets. It's riding in a lot, competing for money, and making social media, which is the best way to make money these days. Through that sport, at least.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's the least dangerous. Not that it's not still dangerous,
right.
But you see some of the accidents that happen. And it's funny because, what was it? It was one of the last bike shows of last year was out at Johnny K's out in Elyria.
Oh, yeah.
And I was riding from Westlake, I want to say, or it might have been the east side of Cleveland. And like you catch up with a group of guys and like all of a sudden like the group of guys is doing like $120.
Right.
And you're like, all right, let's go. And then you're like, wait a minute. I do not want to hit the ground at 120 miles an hour. And it's like that balance of like, this is a good time versus this is kind of real and bad. And you talk about, life. Yeah. You if you're not grounded, like you're that guy who's quickly doing $120 and then ending up, sliding for 3 miles.
And Caden's got a really good head on his shoulders. Like, and some of it, I believe is a blessing, but he's just a smart kid. Like, and as much as, he just turned 18. So it's like, I was definitely part of that influence, but, he learns his lessons, I think, and there's been a couple scares, here and there, when we go into the prisons and, so many of those guys in prison that come up to me are serving time because of a motorcycle, right?
I know multiple people that got 4 years, 5 years, parole, and house arrest for 2 years just for being wanted in multiple counties for doing a wheelie and posting on social media. They really want you now, though. All they do is take a picture of you riding from the cops with a drone or something, and then match you up on social media just by the color of your bike. You don't need a plate to get in trouble.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're running stings now. I mean, there was one, in the middle of summer around Akron area that was like, it was a sting. They had drone, and they were just trying to track these guys. It's kind of like, the technology is so crazy nowadays. People were worried.
Yeah,
and they arrested I think
like 30. They said they arrested 33 people, but they took 33 people to court. And it's also kind of easy to beat something like that when you don't have plate evidence or facial evidence.
Yeah, but the fact that they could find you that easily, now they know who you are. Now they can sting
and they were tracking social media prior to the sting.
Right.
And then unfortunately, there's videographers and cameramen. So they're tracking those pages. So it's just like, and then that's what it comes down to. It's like, is it worth it? In, even what you mentioned earlier and Kaden kind of addressed, like, it's different crashing during a parking lot or a street, or even like when we do our prison shows, and it's very rare enough, but to crash on the street, you see it now. It's like, they're almost glamorizing it. And it's just like, it's hard for me to watch. I'm like, God. And I want to text these people, but then who am I to say, hey, there's so many people jumping on that bandwagon. Look at me. And then a lot of it is like their crash footage. I'm like, and it's almost like they don't have any respect for the motorcycle they're on. And I know what the future is, and then you'll see it. RIP, whoever. I've seen it just about every week. You see RIP, this motorcycle influencer just died. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm just like, you can't? Like, they were, just kind of getting up on that altar to get sacrificed, right? So,
well, I think the other thing too is like, even my wife and I have been in the situation where if I'm doing 75 on the highway in my truck and I got music on or anything, I don't hear you until you are literally right next to my truck and you're doing $180. If I turn on that turn signal and go, like, there's no way for me to see you, like when you're going that fast.
Right.
And, you hear these stories of that happening, and it's like, man, like it's scary enough to get into any kind of accident, but when you're going that fast,
they don't even need much speed to die either. Like,
that's it.
Not at all, man.
It's that neck, neck and head injury. And even like what you said, that's there's just it's so easy to get caught up in that moment. And just think about how many people are dead that got caught up in the moment on a motorcycle, or in prison that got caught up in the moment, you know. And it's the other thing that you see that's kind of taken over social media with motorcycle riders is they're all play the victim. They're you know, going twice this as speed limit, or they're doing some crazy stuff, and then someone pulls out and everybody's like trying to bash the driver. It's like, dude, it's like robbing a bank and being mad that they didn't leave the vault open.
Right.
You're guilty.
Well,
you know what I mean?